Okay, so mind power. It's easier than we think it is to make any situation in our lives turn out to be the way that we want it to be through the power of the mind and positive thinking. Of course, this doesn't apply to everything and every little detail, like if we want fancy or expensive cars, money to spend on whatever we want, whenever we want, for whatever reason, or vacations to exotic islands to escape our everyday life stresses. But the power of the mind is beyond anyone's comprehension. So if we are able to use the biggest tool in our body, besides physical, why wouldn't we want to do that to survive? This can help us with small struggles, depression, anxiety, abuse, isolation, or just simple matters of laughing off the petty things that life throws our way. So why not use it? So I'm going to share some of my life experiences that have taught me and proved that positive thinking can absolutely help you get through anything. In my own personal experiences through life, I've had a pretty negative timeline with almost everything. But it's not small things, it's the kind that leaves scars on the mind and the soul. And it's affected me in every way possible. So first, daycare, I was sexually abused by the people that were running the place. My behavior changed around my mother, and that's what let her know that something was wrong. She had investigations done and had this proven. Thankfully for me, I was too young to remember this, but it was in the back of my mind because subconsciously my behavior changed. It happened during the fall of the year, so through the years of my life, every time the fall came, I would feel depressed and I'd feel out of place and I would feel homesick even in my own home. And I would never understand why that was until I realized that a huge event had happened at that time. Though I couldn't remember it, it was affecting my behavior. It also affected me emotionally, my emotional stability from a young age. Communicating was harder for me. Making friends with kids my age was harder for me in school. I was very much an outcast. Maybe that could have been just the place that I grew up, but I wasn't really the same as everybody else. It left me on a path of cutting myself off emotionally. As depressing as it is, I still can't verbally tell my own mother, I love you. Although I love her more than anything and I would die for her, it's just hard for me to say those words. I've been cut off emotionally because of it. And even giving hugs is kind of uncomfortable for me with my own family, as sad as that is. Second, not so long later, my parents separated. And it wasn't the fact that my parents separated that put a toll on me, because I would see my father every weekend. I had the daddy little girl status. He bought me everything, gave my mother money for me. He took care of me and was there for me, no matter what. It was the fact that when I was 7, his girlfriend that he met, Maria, came into our lives and put a separation on our relationship. So one person that I had, besides my mother, to be mother bear after what she knew that I had experienced, was abandoning me. She had 2 children of her own, Jessica and Adam, who are my now stepbrother and stepsister. And she put it into my father's head that these are like your children too, we're your family just as much as your daughter is. And that's not necessarily the case in the way that she was putting it. It was just separating us because she had an issue with mine and my father's relationship. So as the years went on, I would go from spending every weekend with my father to every other weekend with my father, to maybe once a month, to whenever time was okay with us coming together, or whenever it was okay for Maria to let my father use the car to come and get me, yelling at him on the phone, "Where are you? You're supposed to be home now." not out spending time, spending money, any excuse that she could come up with to get him to come home. And because he didn't want to be alone, he was listening to these things and fell under the impression that this is what my life should be like. I also watched him grow into an alcoholic problem. They would fight every single time I was there. I would hear yelling, see things being thrown. I would have to experience all of these things, and this put a toll on me between abandonment issues, and I started to develop obsessive behavior. When I wasn't with my father or around that environment, I would really think that bad things were just always going to happen, and that really put a toll on me, more so emotionally than the things that had happened before. Maria would always tell me to give my father space. She would just say, give your father space. If I just wanted to go sit by him and watch TV, just anything, simple things. She would say terrible things about my mother to me and my father, and my dad never said anything because he was definitely afraid of the woman, understandably so. And before I knew it, my father and I were no more. The relationship that we had dwindled, and it's still not the same to this day. I can still say that my father really doesn't truly know who I am. He's trying, and that definitely helped, but the feelings of abandonment haven't really left because they've contributed to the relationships that I've developed with friends or boyfriends. And thirdly, high school. I didn't graduate high school, and I would say that it was bullying, but it was on a higher level than that. There was a rumor spread about me. It started with a rumor. In high school, a girl that was friendly, I had been friends with her, not so much friends with her group, but her father was killed in a car accident, and I was fighting with someone that she was close friends with at this time, who went and told her that I said her and her father can rot in hell together. And she believed this. And an online experience, if anybody knows AIM, you could change the way things are said and print it out and show people that, and that's what happened to me. There was no help. There was nothing. It was just me having to go to school and deal with these people attacking me left and right. And it wasn't just students, it was also teachers. It went to teachers, and teachers were not helpful. And with a rumor like that, how could you not believe it? Why would someone just say something like that? Principals, the school board was not helpful. They just kind of let it go, and I was told, well, we can't follow you around everywhere to make sure that you're safe. But I had people threatening to come burn down my house. I had a girl waiting outside that was actually expelled from school because of her behavior, waiting for me with a knife. So I had to be escorted out of the school, and I just never wanted to be in that place. High school is supposed to be one of the best experiences of your life, but I can say the opposite. It absolutely was no good experience for me at all. It left a bad taste in my mouth about friendships. And while this was going on, the person who was supposed to be my best friend was siding with these people because she wouldn't be able to handle the kind of pressure that I was put under. And also, while this was happening, she actually moved. It was at the end of 10th grade. She moved, so she got out of the drama. But then finally 10th grade ended and I moved. And although I was starting fresh in a new place and in a new high school, I still had social anxiety now. I literally thought that everybody hated me for whatever reason, anywhere I went, and it was just horrible. And I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't sleep at night from having panic attacks. There were still worse things going on with my father and that at the time. So I couldn't function. I couldn't wake up. I couldn't face the day. I would be up all night. I would literally, at this point, be thinking, I'm supposed to die. Like, why am I even here? If all these bad things can happen to somebody, what's my point in life? As for Nicole, who was my best friend, she didn't graduate high school either. So ha-ha to her. And that was just because she wouldn't change for gym class, so that goes to show that mentality right there. As all these things were going on, my mother was still there. Through all these experiences, though, we fought. She always had anxiety issues of her own her whole life. My mother hasn't had an easy life either. So I would see her behavior. I was just not having positive examples anywhere around me. So it was coming down to myself. And in the back of my mind, while all these things were going on, I would realize it's got to be up to you. There has to be another way. I can't lean on these people and these examples as a way to get me out of everything I was going through. I also knew that my mother would never leave me or abandon me, no matter what went on. She was abandoned. My grandmother kicked my mother out of the house growing up all the time with the snap of a finger. It didn't matter. And I would take all the rage that I had out on my mother, and we would physically fight. I would throw things, swear at her. I would take all the rage out at home because I knew that I'm not going to be abandoned here. This is where I can go to let it out. Although it was unhealthy, I actually fought so bad with my mom one time. I broke her nose when I was 15. I'm absolutely not proud of that. It was just out of anger. And she's actually missing a nerve in her right arm because of me throwing things. It was horrible. And I literally couldn't take it anymore because I knew that I was meant for something more than these life experiences. I experienced therapies, going to psychiatrists, and having them just put the thought of taking some sort of pill to change my thought process. And I'll also thank my mother for saying no to that. No, that's not the answer. And she's absolutely right, because I couldn't imagine having to try and survive on a chemical, because that's just not right. That wouldn't be real. And that wasn't the answer. So finally, these events had brought on so many different psychological experiences for me. Depression, being with my friends growing up, I couldn't really feel that I was actually in the room or experiencing their laughter or the good things that they were doing. Anxiety, regular and social, just anywhere, just feeling so uncomfortable in my own skin because of everything that had happened. The panic attacks. I just couldn't go outside and feel air and life around me. It was like a dead zone. I can remember the way it felt. It felt so dark and numb, and there was just really nothing there. And all of these conditions were normal for the experiences that I had, but that wasn't a good enough answer for me, that's what was normal, because they weren't normal to me, and I knew I was meant for something more. And I remember the day that I finally put my foot down on life, and I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I remember I was laying on the couch. We're a very spiritual family, so I prayed, and I said out loud, this isn't who I am, this isn't what I'm going to do with my life, and I'm not going to keep going down this path, because who knows where I'll go, or what I'll be, or if I'll even be alive anymore at that point. After that, literally a week later, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulder. I remember I felt lighter. I didn't feel put down in a hole. I didn't feel anxiety anymore. I tested myself. I was like, think about something that makes you upset, Natasha. And it was just like ricocheted off and went somewhere else. The energy had gone. The negative energy had gone. I didn't feel depressed. I went to the movies and I was able to laugh at the things that I didn't remember being funny before. I was finding myself again. And I was enjoying life as a whole, because that's what you're supposed to do. So some quotes by famous people that also know what positive thinking can do. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so, by William Shakespeare. The person who sends out positive thoughts attracts the world around him positively and draws back to himself positive results. Norman Vincent Peale. No problem can withstand the assault of sustained thinking, Voltaire. And the world we have created is a product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. Albert Einstein, who is said to be a genius, with a genius quote. So in conclusion, I could have been anything that was terrible. I could be addicted to drugs. Never happened. Not even smoking, nothing. I could be an alcoholic. I could have viewed my father's behavior and taken that and thought, well, my father uses this as a vice. But I could also see what it was doing to his life and his weight, and just knew that that's not for me. I could still be depressed and holding on to these negative things and be one of those people that uses them as an excuse to not pave my life path and say, well, I can't do this because of that. And that's not right either. We can't control outside events, but I can promise you that we absolutely 100% can control inside. Today I go to school. I want to help people because of these things. It's the most important thing in the world to me to communicate with people now. I'm not socially afraid of life. It's not anywhere in my mind anymore. And I can enjoy life and tell you that there's more beautiful experiences in life than we allow ourselves to understand or to take in, because there are so many terrible things going on in the world. But I want to assure you and ask you that no matter what happens to you in your life, you can change it by the power of positive thinking, and never lose faith in yourself, and let yourself know that you're meant for something better, and you can change your life and someone else's life by thinking positively. Thank you.